A common question I get asked a lot on my channel is, why do I recommend boiling leaves and other botanicals prior to putting them in the aquarium? So a lot of people recommend different ways of doing things, and this is my personal one. So the reason why I would suggest boiling your botanicals prior to putting them in the water as opposed to just putting them straight in is mostly because of pollutants or other pesticides that can sometimes be on various different botanicals or pods that you get either from shops or in local woodlands if you forage them. Yes, obviously there is the matter of once you boil the botanicals, it releases loads of tannin, so that tea stain color into the water, and as what I would normally recommend is you then pour out that water prior to putting, say, the leaves into the fish tank, and then you lose that lovely brown tea stain color. But as you can see on various tanks like this one behind me, it still releases tannins after a time. Loads of leaves and other pods still have tons and tons of tannins to release into the aquarium. It just is a bit more of a slower process. Granted, a couple of days, maybe a week or so. So you're not really losing anything in the sense of just tipping out the water as opposed to pouring it straight in. Now we get onto the argument of, well, leaves in the wild aren't boiled, so why should we need to do it in our aquariums? Well, the simple matter of the fact is that an aquarium is very different to a river stream and other bodies of water that you find in the wild. The most specific one I would say is water flow. So with a river stream, there's a constant flow of fresh, brand new water coming through into the environment that those fish or those leaves are in. So when any of those pollutants leach from the leaves, for example, into that part of the water, they're instantly sort of brushed away by the water flow as opposed to in your aquarium. Now, most aquariums would have sort of low to medium sort of water flows. Mine, for example, have very small sponge filters, just sort of flipping the surface agitation, but there's no sort of intense filter sort of blowing loads of water around the aquarium. And there's not often lots of fresh water being put in, as I only do sort of top-ups or water changes every so often. So you can see the difference between regular home aquariums and then something that you'd find in the wild. So that's the main reason why I would suggest boiling your botanicals prior to putting them into your aquarium, because we don't want any of those nasty pollutants or chemicals going into your water. Now, most shops that sell botanicals shouldn't have anything that would have pesticides or various pollutants on them, but these are natural items, so they're often found or foraged in woodland areas and stuff. And now, depending on where they are, you're never going to guarantee that there's not pollutants in that area. You get cars that go past and all their chemicals that come out of exhaust fumes can then spread onto the leaves in the woodlands, and then the leaves could get blown into the middle of the woodlands, and then you could pick those up. Now obviously the chances are very small of that happening, but it's still a chance. And also you get lots of animals like squirrels, foxes, badgers, you name it, in the UK that could be urinating on it. I mean, the most common one is probably dogs. So, you know, people go out for a walk, dogs wee, you know, you get the drift. So if you pick up those leaves and then you put them straight into your fish tank, you're going to have those nasty things entering your aquarium. Pesticides is another issue. So I often go camping, and one of the campsites that I go to has a woodland area right next to a farm. And as you can imagine, with a farm, the farmer grows various different vegetables and stuff, and then they use pesticides on those veg to sort of keep the plants healthy and stuff. And you can see the plant, when that pesticide gets released onto the field, it can then get blown by the wind into the woodlands. Again, very small chances, but these all add up to, like, you know, cautious reasons why I would sort of discourage from just sort of putting the leaves into your water. Now granted, I have done it and it's not really caused too much of an effect. I've seen issues with pesticides and stuff. I've bought some various botanicals from different places before, and some get sprayed prior to it without your knowledge, and then it's just absolutely wiped out my fish tank. So that's what I always say about boiling them and then re-rinsing them prior to putting putting them in, just so we can just take as many steps possible. Remember, as always, botanicals are a natural item, and with that becomes effects to the water when they release tannins. It affects pH levels depending on water hardness, so it's always something to bear in mind. You've got that issue straight away there, so do you really want to be adding more issues like releasing all different kinds of items? So it's best to always double check and triple check, just in case. You know, it's the welfare of the animals that we've got here. These are little creatures that rely on us to survive. Again, it's not like river streams in the wild. That's always something that is so key to point out. Although we are trying to replicate areas from the wild, it's not the wild, it's a closed ecosystem that you have in your house. So a fish tank is always going to be different no matter what the case. Be careful about where you take advice from, including places like YouTube and that. Not everyone is an expert. I'm certainly not a scientist, so I'm only giving my views and opinions on this as well. So it's always best to do your research, trial and error. I would always recommend, before using botanicals in your tanks, to maybe try them out in a body of water that has no fish in it, or something that you're trying out, or a little setup that you've got going, just to test out how well it is with the water, and kind of like, you know, if you notice any sort of dangerous things in the water or any pests that are on it and stuff like that, you just don't want them going into your fish tank. If you want to know what and where to get various botanicals, check the links below and some of the recommended videos on my channel. I've got plenty of content there, just sort of advising on best methods for collecting botanicals out in woodlands or buying them from shops, and what to use, what kind of botanicals work with different types of aquariums and stuff. So definitely check them out. Thanks for taking the time to listen, and have a great day.